Hello and welcome to How to Discuss in an Interview the Iran nuclear deal. The deal was agreed between the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, namely the US, UK, France, China and Russia, plus Germany. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action saw Iran agree to limit the size of its stockpile, or enriched uranium, for 15 years, and the number of centrifuges installed to enrich uranium for 10 years. This is used to make reactor fuel as well as nuclear weapons. In return, sanctions imposed by the UN, US and EU were lifted. Iran states that its nuclear program is peaceful, and its compliance with the deal had been verified by the International Atomic Energy Agency. Trump decided to withdraw the US, believing the deal was not proving effective in limiting the development of ballistic missiles, and handed Iran a £100 billion windfall used as fund for weapons, terror and oppression in the Middle East. It is important to consider the political reaction of this issue. France, Germany and UK regret the US decision, while Foreign Ministry of Russia said it was deeply disappointed. European Union's top diplomat, Federica Mogherini, said the EU was determined to preserve the deal, while Iran's President Hassan Rouhani said the US has announced that it doesn't respect its commitments. An interesting fact is that Israel's Prime Minister said he fully supports Mr. Trump's bold withdrawal from a disastrous deal, and Saudi Arabia, Iran's regional rival, says it supports and welcomes Mr. Trump's moves towards pulling out of the deal. Another factor considers the economic impact of this issue. The US in fact will implement sanctions. These are firstly primary ones, which will restrict US companies from doing business with Iran, while secondary sanctions will restrict US companies doing business with non-US companies who do business with Iran. The US Treasury said there will be a wind-down period of 90 and 180 days before sanctions are implemented. However, it is important to consider that EU trade with Iran has nearly tripled, from $9 billion in 2015, when sanctions were lifted, to $25 billion. Unless the EU finds a way to keep the deal alive, without ruining its own company's business with the US, that could go straight back down again. Another factor is Iran's oil output may be expected to fall, as it did when the previous sanctions were implemented. Oil price already rose 3% on Wednesday, as markets reacted to the news. Iran's economic growth had benefited greatly from the deal. Tourism had rose from 3 million in 2012 to over 5 million in 2015. Moreover, its sale of oil and non-oil products will now be reduced, as countries want to avoid deteriorating relations with the US. An example may be seen in the aviation sector. Companies such as Airbus and Boeing, which had agreed deals with Iran to sell 180 aircraft respectively after the 2015 deal, stand to lose billions of dollars because of the use of US-made parts in construction. In terms of future options, it is important to consider that there is still hope for Iran's trading partners, as the other parties to the 2015 nuclear agreement, the UK, France, China, Russia and Germany, have pledged their continuing support for the deal. Furthermore, the US government has said that exemption for those dealing with Iran are possible, although it has not yet given any details about which companies could benefit. If that fails, the EU could also use a blocking statute to protect companies conducting business with Iran from US sanctions, as it did when it lifted its own sanctions on Cuba.